Irie friends, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing one of my favorite tasks when it starts to get really warm, and that is planting out my peppers. I am going to plant it both indoor, well, in ground and in containers this year. The peppers won't have a dedicated spot in the vegetable garden, but I will be putting it out in the landscape amongst the flowers and such. But first we have to get the containers that we used last year. We kind of have to revitalize that potting soil. I'm not refreshing those containers with brand new potting soil, and after that we're going to be planting those up as usual. I'll talk to you about how I like to plant up my peppers because I do it a little bit different, and kind of give you some pointers and tips that has worked for me over the years to get a large pepper harvest. So we're going to jump into that. You may see me move the planter somewhere else. I'm still not 100% with the location that they're at currently, so that might enter into this video. We have about 4 days coming up of just rain, and when that happens, I like to make sure that I'm getting the things that I've started out of their start container and into their final planting place, mainly because those containers can start getting waterlogged. We'll get some root issues with them sitting in that rainwater. So it's best when you have a lot of days coming up with rain that you kind of work hard to get them out of their smaller container. Also, it's really good for the plants because once that rainwater comes down, they're getting additional nutrients from that. So they will kind of get a good start and they'll establish better when you plant it out when rain is in the forecast. So let's actually get into it, and we'll talk about it a little bit more as we are transferring the pepper plants. Let me bring them more into the shade so maybe we could see them better. So the Jimmy Nardellos are in the back, and you could see they're starting to push out fruits. So they really want to be up potted to a larger container. I'm just taking that out because you want the plant to more focus on the roots, and then when it gets bigger it could put out new fruits, new buds for fruits. So I'm just getting these out of here. Like I said, I'm not topping off my pepper plants at all this year. I'm just keeping them as is. The plan is to, for any of these sweet varieties that are smaller, I'm going to be doing what I normally do in the containers, which is planting 2 in 1. For the larger bell peppers, I'm just going to be putting 1 in each of these. There are about 5-gallon containers each. So smaller peppers 2, larger bell pepper 1, and I have about 12 of these containers. Right now they still have the old potting soil. All I'm going to be doing is just adding some fertilizer. I wish I had some compost, but I don't have it right now. But whenever I do the composting thing, I'll go ahead and add some compost at the top. But we're just going to be adding some granular fertilizer inside of there. Then we have some sweet bells here, which is nice. And then lastly, we have some California Wonder. We have the peppercorn, and then we have 2 of the yellow monster. I feel like these steps have been really integral to our pepper planting. This would be the 2nd year I've been doing it here. I don't know, for some reason having it on these steps is just the most comfortable for me. So I just went ahead and picked them all up and brought them here. So I like to use my hand or sometimes a trowel, and I will kind of get almost to the base And then I will take a handful of fertilizer and drop it down in there. Then after I do that, I will go ahead and put back the soil. And then I will take another handful of soil and I will sprinkle it just around the top. Maybe 2 handfuls. My hands are pretty small. I'll sprinkle that around the top. So what will happen for me is as the plant gets water, the water will break down the granular fertilizer over time, and then also as it's breaking it down, the roots will sense the fertilizer at the bottom, and that will encourage the roots to kind of grow deeper in order to hit that fertilizer down there. So that's what's working, or that's my thought process behind that. And anytime I am planting these up, these are a 5-gallon container. And I like to, for the bell peppers, or any pepper really, I like to plant 2 of them together. Peppers, for me at least, as I've done it, they really like that companion, and they really enjoy having a second pepper plant there. Normally lean on each other and they grow well together, just having 2. I've even planted it where out in the vegetable garden, I've dug 1 hole and I've planted both peppers in 1 hole, and they enjoy that as well. So you really have a choice of how you want to do it. I'm going to be planting 2 of them next to each other. So this one is, I'm going to do, let's see, the habanada sweet. I have mostly larger bell peppers, and for a 5-gallon container, I prefer to do the planting of 2 when I have a 10-gallon container. So I have 1 10-gallon container here that I'm going to actually put 2 of the bell peppers in. But for the 5-gallon stuff, when it comes to those larger bell peppers, I like to just stick to 1. And the roots are looking pretty good, so I'm happy about that. I just wish that the hot peppers did as well as these sweets, but it's fine. If anything, I'll just go to the nursery and pick up some varieties of hot peppers that I didn't get to grow well this year. And I have a lot of hot peppers still frozen and stuff, but I really wanted the cayenne and the paprika pepper to make powder of those, but it's fine. So this is what it looks like when you plant up 2, and I like to do a combination of both the granular fertilizer and the liquid fertilizer. So I start off by putting the granular fertilizer in with the soil. Doesn't matter if it's new potting soil or old potting soil. That's my base. Throughout the growing season, about every 3 weeks or every month, I'll start using the liquid fertilizer. I use a combination of the Alaska fish fertilizer and the Warm Bloom so that it covers the NP and K, all the nutrients that the plant may need, and that's how I keep my plants producing nice peppers. Especially because they're in these containers, you really need to make sure that you are providing them with those nutrients. There's nothing in here. It's not like when they're out in the landscape or in a garden bed, at least for mine, where there's worms, there's microorganisms that kind of break down things and it feeds the roots. We don't have any of that. So essentially your plants, anytime they're in container, is depending on you to provide all their nutritional needs. Okay, so we are on the verge of losing light, so I'm gonna just show you guys really quickly. So for the smaller peppers, like the banana, I only had one, and then in front I dropped the, I think this is the Swiss Giants blend of pansy, and then there's another one in here, but I thought it would be fun to add some color to the peppers, so I just popped those in front. There's ones that have just one, and there's ones that have multiples, but I think for now I'm just going to put that there, and then maybe I will separate them later. Then I have some of the, let me turn this one around. I have some sweet peppers, like the larger ones, that I am trialing out a combination of where they're two in one hole, where they are separated like this, and same thing, two in one hole, just to kind of see how they perform. And then I have ones that are just by itself. So these two are by themselves, and then I place two in containers. Normally I would save the sweet peppers for the larger, like this container back here, that's like a 10-gallon, but I just wanted to see how that will look. Maybe I'll switch one of them to the 10-gallon, that way I could compare the sizing and growth and all that good stuff. Then over here I decided to plant this up with the Impatience blend around, and then I had some strawberries. I don't really know what variety they are, but I needed to plant them up somewhere else, so I just popped them all together in the middle and I planted them up like that. And then we have some peppers out in the landscape. We have one here, and then I placed 1, 2, 3 there, and then over here these are just the sweet bell. I believe one is red, orange, and yellow, so one is here, then one is back there, and then I have one right up in the front here. So I also have these poles here from my old greenhouse. I decided to keep them because I thought they would be really good as a form of trellis, or I forgot, I'm blanking on the name, just so that I can go ahead and tie the peppers to that pole. And I just want to make sure that I place it in before the roots actually start spreading out. That way when I put that in, it does not hurt any of the rooting system. So I'm just going to go ahead and place those in all the containers just so that it's already in there. I'm thinking maybe I should go ahead and spray paint these black to match the containers. Let me know what you guys think. Right now they are this darkish green color. So initially I thought that I didn't have enough soil for this container, but I decided to consolidate some of my smaller containers into this larger container. And then I had some Coast of Maine potting mix that I also decided to add some of that in there, and that was enough to fill up the container. So I ended up taking one of the smaller container, the plants that was in there, and placed it into this larger container. And I think I'm gonna pick up another 1 or 2 of these, just because I just don't think that the spacing is enough for the bell peppers in these smaller containers. So I think I just want to set them up for success instead of failure. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick up another 2 of these container and some more potting mix. So after I transferred these, I was kind of running out of time, and there was a little bit of sprinkle coming down, but I also like to mulch my containers. You'll see that I had put some of the straw aside whenever I was revitalizing the potting soil, but afterwards I do come back in and I add some mulch on top, especially when it comes to smaller planters. The mulch helps to retain some of that moisture. It's super helpful with that, and then it also keeps down any of the weeds that may pop up. I don't really usually have any weed issue, but it doesn't hurt to add some mulch around the plant. So I'm really interested to see how these sweet peppers perform, both in container, in ground, 5-gallon, 10-gallon, together, separated, all that good stuff, so that next year I really have just the perfect way to plant them. Like I said, everything is already topped up with fertilizer, granular fertilizer, both in ground and in the containers, and then we're supposed to be getting rain, so they'll be nicely watered through that rain. I tried my best to place most of the pansies that I started through the soil blocks just in and around everything. Most of them will not be in their final location, but for right now it's much better than leaving them in the container and having that rainwater hit them constantly and then just they just not being good to plant later on. So I just wanted to get them in some form of planting area, so I spread them out between the peppers, some in the green stalk, some in the strawberry small planter, and I think that was pretty much it. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Irie, yourself. Bye.